Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about The Big Lebowski. So I watched it and I thought it was pretty good. And I don't know, I was expecting a little bit more. I was disappointed, to be honest. I've seen like quite a few Coen Brothers movies. I've seen the big ones like Fargo, No Country for Old Men, and I finally got around to seeing The Big Lebowski. And I've also seen like A Serious Man. I've seen Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, and Burn After Reading, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So I've seen like that's probably at least half their movies. So I have a pretty good feel for how like they're written and directed and everything, and it definitely feels like a Coen Brothers movie. But from everything I've heard about Big Lebowski, like with how it's a cult classic and it's known for like all the memorable lines and everything. I don't know. I definitely felt some of those like as impactful in the movie, like whenever Jeff Goodman's character is like, or John Goodman's character is like, am I the only one around here who cares about the rules? But I don't know. I guess I've seen the meme too many times because I just had this weird, uncanny feeling when I was watching it. Like, I know this came first, but somehow it doesn't feel that way. I don't know. There's a few other lines. Like, you're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole. That one landed pretty well. And in a way, I feel like this movie almost, like... It's like the lines have permeated into culture so much, the dialogue, that it's like lost some of its effect on me because I'm like, oh, I've heard that before. Like, even though I'm trying to separate them in my head, I just cannot because I've been browsing Reddit for too many years. I've seen the lines too many times. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, Coen Brothers, they always have these, like, interesting, idiosyncratic characters. Just like weird, and they often repeat lines over and over, just like real people do. And I really appreciate that about the Coen Brothers, because I like it when fiction depicts reality in ways that are like not necessarily convenient for moving things forward, but uses it to develop characters in a way that feels real. Like, most of the time in written dialogue in books or movies, there's not really much filler, and if there is, it's like very intentional. But in Coen Brothers movies, there's like a lot of like awkward pauses and characters just repeating the same phrase over and over, as people do in real life. As I say, all the time whenever I'm like trying to link between ideas. If I was a Coen Brothers character, they wouldn't take that out. They would just leave that in, and I really appreciate that about the movies. But something about this cast, that's all there, and there's a lot of good lines, and I think they utilize that well. But something about this cast of characters just didn't like grab me like I thought it would. Specifically, the relation between like Jeff. I'm mixing up the actor names and the real names, but the dude, Walter, and Donnie. I didn't love the dynamic like I was hoping I would be able to, because I thought some of the best scenes in the movie were in the bowling alley. It's a very romantic view of bowling. There's a lot of like great shots of, I think the intro shot whenever they're each throwing, like four people are throwing a bowling ball down the lane, and it sort of pans through all four of them. I think that's really nice. And I think the way it's sort of, it has the shots of the balls coming up through the machine that are really nice. It just, and the color scheme is really sort of, it pops and it looks really nice, as I will say again. But it's like the relationship between the characters felt quite stagnant, I guess. Specifically how Donnie is just sort of relegated as the meme character. I feel really bad for Donnie because, spoilers, he dies towards the end of the movie, and the only people like that are really his family are his two friends who don't really give a shit about him. He's sort of the third wheel to the friendship. Anytime he tried to talk in the movie, Walter was like, "Shut the fuck up, Donnie." And it's kind of funny, it's one of those lines that gets repeated a lot. But, it's just, he didn't really have anyone that cared about him, and he died of a heart attack in a parking lot. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of sad, and I feel bad for Donnie. But he didn't really add that much because he was just shit on all the time by Walter and the dude. And I didn't, honestly, I know people are going to hate me for this, but I didn't love Walter's character either. I thought it was a funny gimmick that he always brought up Nam, like over and over again when it didn't make any sense. I think one of the funniest parts of the movies is he's like, whenever he's scattering Donnie's ashes, he brings up Nam for no reason. There's a few other times in the movie where he brings it up for absolutely no reason, and it's just funny every single time. But I don't know, I just kind of felt like his character was composed of those very simple things. And the performance was good. I don't know, it's just something about it was not that funny to me. And I think maybe, I've heard, from the cult of the dude, of those who really like this movie, that it's something you watch multiple times and you appreciate the lines and everything more. And I could see that. But, and there were some other great supporting characters, like the feminist lady. She was pretty great. I loved her when she was on screen. I think the old guy, the older rich Lebowski was nice. Bunny was fine. I think the problem, though, is that this film is really, and it kind of lives or dies on the strength of the characters interacting with each other, because the plot, while being very smart, it doesn't really drive the movie, and I feel like that's sort of the point. It's sort of nullified. I'm not gonna spoil the plot, but it's a fucking old movie at this point. And I will say that sort of the events from the beginning are nullified. Like, the dude has just been a pawn in the plot this whole time over basically nothing. It doesn't really matter in the end. So, and I suppose that's sort of the point. As the narrator says, the dude's, he's not a great man. He's a pretty lazy guy. But he fits in well where he is, and he doesn't give a fuck. And, that's a common thing that the characters say throughout the movie, is like, fuck it, right? Who cares? But, it's, it's funny because the dude, the main character, the Big Lebowski, he's just kind of shit on the whole movie. Like, his car is destroyed, his house is vandalized, his rug is peed on, his car is destroyed again to the point that it's unusable. He gets beaten up a few times throughout the movie, and he's just caught in this whirlwind of, like, other people's interests, and he doesn't really know what's going on. The funny thing is there's a moment when this character, I don't know the actor's name, forgive me, but in Miller's Crossing, there's this mob boss who, he is not the main character, and he's sort of one of the many people that is manipulated by Tom, who is the master manipulator in Miller's Crossing. And in this movie, that mob boss, like, shows up as someone that's, like, following the dude around. And when the dude finally confronts him, because he sees him in the car, like, outside his house, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? The mob boss is like, oh my god, I really admire your work, how you're playing everyone against each other. And the dude is clearly not doing that, unless I've completely missed the point of the movie. He's clearly not doing that. He's the one that's confused. And I think it's like an homage to Miller's Crossing, because in that movie, Tom really is the master manipulator, and he really is playing everyone against each other. And I just thought that was really funny. Because in the movie, in The Big Lebowski, as I said, the dude is just sort of he's not necessarily being played by everyone. It's more that he's just caught in the crossfire of a plot that, like, almost doesn't want anything to do with him. And there are a lot of smart moments in the movie. Like, I think the idea that there's sort of a bag of cash that's thrown out, and the dude's friend throws out like a bag of undies because he's trying to get involved, and he's basically ruins the handoff of the money for him. But it turns out that the bag of money that was actually the money also didn't have anything in it. And I don't know, there's just a lot of things like that. I can tell that there's a lot of inner workings in the plot of like subtle things that you could miss or not. Like there's a point where someone's toe is cut off, and we think it's the hostage that's been taken, but it's someone else's. There's a point where the feminist lady tries to convince the dude to go to the doctor for something about his jaw, and the dude's like confused, like, why do you want me to go to the doctor? And when he goes to the doctor's like, please take down your pants, and it's like kind of a weird moment, but you don't really think much of it at the time, and then later on you find out it's probably because she was trying to vet him with the doctor to see if he was like a good sperm sample, because she's trying to conceive her baby, but she doesn't want the father to be around, so like it's not like she wants the dude to be the father or anything. And I feel like she's probably one of the best characters, now I think about it, in the movie, at least as far as minor characters go. The dude's obviously really great. I love his performance. I think, is it Jeff Bridges? Forgive me, I'm really bad with actors and everything, but I thought his performance was really good. I thought John Goodman as Walter was good. I don't know, I just didn't love the character. And yeah, I liked the movie, and it had some like really good cinematography, like with some dolly-in shots, and there's some acid flashbacks or like dream sequences, and there's some really neat moments. Like one of my favorite parts of the movies is when the camera is basically a bowling ball, and it's sort of just rolling in on itself, like going back and forth between the bowling pins and the person who rolled the ball, who we later find out is that feminist lady whose name I do not remember. And it's a very, I guess the last thing I'll say is that it's a very like 90s movie. I was born in the year that the movie was made, and it was made about the early 90s, so maybe it's a vibe that it was trying to capture a vibe that I just was not really alive for. I feel like I kind of got it, I was alive in the late 90s, early 2000s, but I don't know. It's just something about it didn't gel with me, although I appreciated it as a movie. But the fact that, the plot was so, like, insignificant, sort of, in a way, like, the plot was very smart and subtle, I could tell, but it just didn't matter much, so I think the focus was really on enjoying the character interactions. And while I did like the bowling alley scenes and the similar stuff, like when they went to In-N-Out Burger, it just didn't, like, make the movie for me. And so I was just left with sort of like that was a pretty good experience, but I didn't love it. And, if you are someone that likes The Big Lebowski a lot, explain it to me. Explain what I missed about it. It definitely seems like something I could rewatch, maybe watch with a friend to get a different feeling for it. And look forward to more Coen Brothers vlogs in the future. Maybe some Tarantino stuff. Been trying to get into more film stuff, or just analyzing things outside of anime. I don't want to spoil too much, but I've been in a vlogging mood lately, and no promises, but there you go.